And welcome to another episode of the Durham Bulls Podcast, back off of the end of season little hiatus. I'm Patrick Kinas, broadcaster for the Bulls. And if it's the first time you're catching the podcast, we welcome you. You can find all the previous podcasts since February on our YouTube page, Durham Bulls TV, and all these on the audio form will be on Apple, Spotify, or wherever that you find your podcast. Well, the last time we chatted, the Bull season was winding down. Now we are about a month into the off season, and it is my honor to bring in a guy who made his AAA debut with the Bulls in August of this past season. And he's hanging out in Indianapolis, Indiana, where it's a little bit cool. Back in my kind of neck of the woods, it is Tampa Bay Rays outfielder Nick Schnell. Hey, Nick, how are you? Thanks for making some time.
How are you? I'm doing well. Yeah, no problem. I'm excited to sit down and talk for a little bit.
So let's chat. I guess, what have you been doing since the season ended? It's been about a month. You have a lot of family news and some downtime as well. What's been hanging out in your life here lately?
Yeah, so we got back after the season, and I kind of took just a week of just relaxation to wind down and kind of just take some time with the family. And we stayed at home and just hunkered down and just spent time with each other. And then last week, I guess the last week and a half, my wife's mom and stepdad live out in Colorado, and every year during the off season we make a trip out to see them. So my wife, me, and my son Bo took a trip out to Colorado. We stayed there for 4 days. We made a trip to a mountain town called Frisco, hung out there for a little bit. And then my wife and I left our son with his Nene and grandson, and mom and dad went to Mexico for a week. And we actually went with Cole Wilcox and his wife, who
Nice.
Another Bulls player. So we did a little couples trip, and then we came home. And since then, I've been kind of getting back into compete mode a little bit. I'm not doing as much baseball stuff, but a little bit of working out. Been doing some stuff around the house. It's starting to get cold, and then I've been mixing in a little bit of hunting, a little bit here and there. So
how hard is it to kind of move off of baseball mode? Because this has been your life. I mean, it's been your life's work since you were 3-4 years old, playing baseball 24/7. To turn off the dial to zero for a month, is that challenging for you?
It was early on in my career. I would say like the first 2 or 3 off seasons, I remember the Rays would always be like, "Hey, like, we don't want you picking up a bat or a ball for a while. Like, wait until like at least December, but we'd even encourage you to wait till January to like push baseball stuff off and just really take a break." They're like, "You can work out and stuff, but put the baseball stuff down." And the first couple of years, I had some injuries and stuff, so I wasn't playing, and so it was harder for me to check out because I wanted to get back into doing stuff. And then also that first off season, it was like, okay, I need to start working right away. As you get older, you realize, okay, I've been doing this for a long time. You need to take the time, let your body rest, and take care of your body. Because when if you try and go 12 months out of the year, it's not that you've done it for so long, you won't burn out, but you'll put a toll on your body that it really doesn't need.
Is there a concern that you might lose a little bit of the muscle memory? I mean, is that kind of the fear of an athlete when you stop for a month or so?
That's how it was when I was younger, but now it's just like, just shut it down. And you realize quickly, if you put it down for a month and then you go hit again, it's the same thing it's always been. Sometimes it's even better, because when you're doing it every day, you can create bad habits because you just get monotonous, whereas you put it down for a month and then it's just muscle memory when you pick it up, and then it goes back to doing what you do naturally. Instead of when you're playing 140 games, you can start nitpicking at stuff. So
how do you fill the void then? Because we're all so ultra competitive. Are you playing golf? Are you bowling? Are you playing tennis? Or is it just you teaching Bo how to, hold the bat and take swings around the house?
Yeah, I golf a little bit, but when we get home for the off season, it starts getting cold here, so I don't get too many opportunities. I'm playing in a golf outing this coming Monday, so I get out and play a little bit. At our house, we have a barn, and so I have a cage set up in there, and then I have a golf net that I can hit golf balls into. So I stay doing stuff. I like shooting baskets and but the main thing I do is hunting, and then I teach bow stuff too. But I try and put the baseball stuff down for a little bit, and then I'll pick up other sports, or I'll go out hunting and then just spend time with the family. That's the main thing.
Did you have the cage in the barn when you were a kid, or is this something you've had since you turned pro?
No, this was last off season. My wife and I were going to build a house, and then the building prices, we bought some land and building prices grew a ton. And so we found a house that was pretty close to where I grew up, but on some property, which is what we wanted. And there was a barn here, and it was just kind of best case scenario. I put up a cage, and there's a workout room. So I'm able to while my wife works, I'm able to do a lot of my off season stuff at home. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have to travel as much, and I can help out with Bo and kind of make up for the time I lose with him in season and the off season, because we have everything here.
Yeah. Well, so a couple more family notes before we move on to the baseball stuff. So first off, you were in Mexico, what, a week and a half ago. You just missed the hurricane that kind of blew through the Gulf of Mexico. Everything was fine down there for you?
Yeah, we were in Cabo, so we were the Pacific side, so we didn't get hit. It was blue skies the whole time. It's funny, everybody was asking us about that, and I knew about the hurricane that went through and hit Tampa, but I didn't even realize it was that close to Mexico. But it's crazy that Tampa got hit with that, with the Rays Stadium and everything, and a lot of the guys that Curtis lives down there, and so I'm praying and hoping that everybody's okay.
Yeah. Have you chatted with some of those guys, or the instructors, the front office, anybody down there? Because the devastation looks just awful.
I haven't, but talking about it now, it makes me want to reach out to a couple of those guys, make sure everything's okay. I saw Curtis posted on Instagram. He was with McClanahan, and they were working out in a garage, it looked like. So Seems like everything's good there, but be good to reach out to those guys and just check in and see if they need anything. And
I mean, you've been in the Trop before. I know you haven't played there yet as a major leaguer. I mean, when you saw photos or even followed that night as the hurricane was blowing through, as the roof is being ripped off, what are you thinking at that moment?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you just hope and pray that everything structures are they can be rebuilt, but you just hope that the lives of the people there are okay, and that they're taken care of, and God willing that it doesn't take anybody's life. And it is tough, because obviously it's the Rays, that's where they play, and now it looks like they're going to have to find a contention plan, especially 2 years after our spring training facility gets taken down. So it almost feels like it keeps hitting us, and you just, like I said, those structures are rebuilt, or you're able to rebuild, but you just pray everybody's life is safe and put it in the Lord's hands.
Well, tough news for all of our friends and colleagues down in St. Pete, but you divulged some really great family news a couple of weeks ago, because not only do you have your 2.5, how old is Bo? 2.5?
Yep, 2.5.
When's his birthday?
He's almost 2.5. His birthday is April 27th.
Okay. So we have a nearly 3-year-old son, Katie. His birthday's in early December. But you had some news, you and your wife Carly, about a new addition on the way, right?
Yep, we're expecting a little baby girl in January.
How does that hit you, soon to be dad girl?
It's funny. We found out when we were in Montgomery, actually, and even when Carly got pregnant with Bo, I kind of always said I wanted a girl, and then we found out he was a boy, and I think it was emotionally hedging, because I did really want a boy, because my dad on the Schnell side, he's of his one brother and his one sister. My brother and I are the only boys. So, and then on my mom's side, there's no other boys except my uncle. He got remarried and had a baby late, and that was a boy. So we have one on my mom's side to carry on the Wilson name, and then me and my brother are the only two to carry on the Schnell name. So my brother and I, he had a baby a month before us, a baby boy too. So Bo has a cousin who's a month older than him, and we both got the boys out of the way. So the stress is off our backs. And but when I found out it was a girl, I was super excited. And then probably an hour went by, and I was just sitting there thinking about it. And Carly looked at me and she's like, "You seem nervous. Like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I don't know. I've been raising a boy for the last 2 years. It's going to be completely different with a baby girl."
I mean, it's late October as we sit here with you, so this is at most what, 3 months away. Have you bought your soon to be baby daughter her first gift?
Yes. So the way we actually found out the gender was we did genetic testing when she was like 12 weeks pregnant. And we took it to a baby shop in Montgomery, and we picked out a boy outfit and a girl outfit. And then we took it to the counter, and we had the lady look at it, and we walked away, and she scanned the girl clothes and put it in a bag. And then we got home and we had Bo open the gift to find out what we were having. So that was pretty cool. And it was kind of low key, and it was just the family, but it was a cool little moment and a fun way to do it.
That is an awesome story.
Yeah.
So just some random checkout person at this store. You trusted this person to put the pink or put the blue in the bag?
Yeah, my wife saw somebody do it on TikTok, so we had to try and do it. And well, we got confirmation. We finally got back. We had to change hospitals from Alabama to Indiana,
Sure.
And we just had our anatomy scan this Monday. She's 26 weeks now, and it was confirmed it is a girl. So the genetic testing was correct. So
the beauty of this podcast, if memory serves, one of the preseason guests we had was Ryan Stanek, who pitched for the Bulls several years ago, and now with the Mets, was with Houston last year and then Seattle a bit. Anyway, he told me a story where they did I guess what you can call it, a gender reveal through toppings on a pizza at a place in Houston. And I want to say that like the sausage or the mushrooms were arranged in the letters BOY.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good way to do it.
So we have that from Stanek, and now we have you and some random checkout person at the store because you didn't know what was in the bag either, right?
We had no idea.
That's great.
Yeah, it was exciting.
What a great story. Well, so congratulations to you and Carly. I don't know this story. I love asking this question to everybody who's come on the show, and hopefully you're open to divulging. Asked it of Tristan Peters on how he met his wife. It was at a line dancing place out in Arizona. How did Master Boney meet his wife? How did Stanek meet his wife? How did you meet Carly?
Yeah, so this is another funny story. So my sister and her played volleyball, AAU volleyball growing up. So she's from the north side of Indianapolis. So it's kind of the same thing as travel baseball. It's just travel volleyball, and they were on the same team. So she's 4 years older than me, but my mom and my sister, and then her mom and her grew up. They went on trips together. My sister and her were really close. And then my sister went off to college at Western Michigan to play volleyball. And then my wife went to St. Thomas University in Miami, Florida. And they stayed in touch, but just completely different parts of the United States. So we didn't see him for a while. And then she ended up graduating and moving back to work for her mom's company, and started hanging out with my sister again. And then that's kind of when we reconnected and started talking and dating. And then in 2021, we got engaged and then got married in 2022. And actually, no, we got engaged in 2020. I better get this right.
Yeah,
and then married in 2021, because we got married November 27th of 2021.
Where was your first date? What'd you guys do?
We went to so she flew back she actually moved from Miami to Indiana, and then Indiana to Colorado, and then back to Indiana with me. So she moved a bunch, but she was flying home from Colorado, and I picked her up from the airport, and we went to breakfast together, a place downtown Indianapolis called Yoke. It's a good breakfast spot if you're ever in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And then we actually we had reconnected because she had come over to hang out with my sister at my mom and dad's house. We had her over for dinner, and that's when we saw each other again, and then hung out a couple of times, not like dates, but just with our families. And then just stayed in contact after that. And then I picked her up from the airport. And then I would say that was our first official date.
And so Tristan Peters had a really winding story about how he got engaged to his wife, because he had, I think, just been traded, and then he was in Montgomery, and then something else happened. Next thing you know, he's like in a different state where he wasn't planning on proposing, but all of a sudden he found himself like in some random state with the ring still in his pocket. And so the original plans had changed, but the objective was still the same. Was there something really romantic or special or unusual about how you proposed?
Not really. I try to be as romantic as possible. I'm my dad's son, so it's a struggle at times. But we went out to dinner, and I did it around a couple days after her birthday. So her birthday is the 9th, and we got engaged of December, and we got engaged on the 12th. And so I just told her that we were going to do her birthday dinner on the 12th. So we went to dinner, and then I'd flown all her friends out to Indiana from Florida, and and then her family came, and they were all at our house waiting for us to get back. And then we had just bought that house, so I ended up doing it at the house, and then we stayed at the house and kind of had a party after that. But it wasn't anything crazy. Went to a nice dinner, and then I did it in the middle of our family room at home in front of everybody. So
nice. There's pressure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, a lot of pressure.
You better know the answer, right? When you do something like that in a big gathering. So let's transition out of baseball. So you as fans may have picked up by now with a lot of Indiana references, you're sitting right now in Indianapolis or outside of Indy. Where are you?
Just basically Indianapolis. I'm in Greenwood, Indiana, but it's just outside of just past the south side of Indianapolis. So that's where I grew up.
Tell our fans about what growing up, maybe non-baseball, but just what growing up in the Midwest in Greenwood or Indianapolis, Indiana is like. I'm from a couple of hours west of where you're sitting right now, so I know what it's like to grow up in the Midwest, but maybe they don't.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'll never leave. I love it. So it's what I've always known, and it was great. I grew up, like you said, south side of Indianapolis, really, really big city in Indianapolis, but the community I grew up in was very small. My mom is from here. My dad is from actually your neck of the woods in Illinois, but my mom went to the high school I went to, and it was a Catholic high school, and there's I think 8 or 9 grade schools that feed into that high school. So she went to a grade school called Holy Name, and I went to St. Roch, but they feed into the same Catholic high school. And then went to that high school for 4 years, and then got drafted out of high school. But I mean, I grew up playing in the side yard with my brother, wiffle ball, basketball in the driveway. You watch Hoosiers, and the guys are shooting out in the middle of cornfields basically, but I was more in the city, but we were still doing that. We were playing basketball a lot, because you're from Indiana, you have to play basketball, and just doing whatever I could to be outside and playing sports, to be honest. Part of the reason that I wanted some land when we bought this house is because there's plenty of stuff to do. Bo, all he wants to do is be outside. We have a tennis court in the backyard, and we put out some bases, and we go outside every day and we play baseball. He runs the bases, and we shoot baskets, and just try and be outside and enjoy the fresh air and as much as we can. And that's kind of what I did as a kid. I just wanted to be outside and play as much as I could.
So I'm from Pontiac, Illinois, which is 10,000 people if you include the maximum security prisoners in that town. It's maybe 8,000 if you don't. But it's a town where most generations just stay in Pontiac. Parents to kids, kids to grandkids, and they're all running through the same high schools, the same junior highs. Is that similar for you? What was it? Was it unusual or odd for your mom to see you walking through the same hallways that she did? Did her locker combination still work when she's walking down? Checking it out now when she's walking you through?
It's definitely not unusual. My dad always made the joke that we had to marry outside of our high school, and my brother did, and I did. So that we were 2 for 2 there. My sister's not married yet, so we'll see if she can follow suit. but he just was like, we got to thin out the blood because everybody from our high school gets married, and then you send your kids to the same grade schools, and then they go to Roncalli, the high school, and it's very similar to that. And I know we talked about it, but my grandma and grandpa live in Cornell, and then my dad's sister lives in Pontiac, so I kind of know how it works in Pontiac too. My cousin went to Pontiac High School, so.
That's really how you and I started chatting after you got promoted here. Was I think I'd mentioned just offhanded Pontiac on one of the broadcasts, and somebody in your family was back in either Indiana or Illinois, heard Pontiac, and next thing you know, you're asking me at the Syracuse hotel, hey, we may actually have some common people with our family who know each other, right?
Yeah, it was wild. I can't remember if it was my dad or I think it was my dad listening, and I think you had mentioned something, and he had texted me. He was like, you need to talk to Pat and ask him about Pontiac, like where he's from and stuff. And sure enough, I talked to my grandpa and my grandma about it, and they had talked to my aunt and uncle, and my uncle, who's a Giovannini, was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he lived down the street from us. And sure enough, you guys lived right down the street. It's crazy. It's such a small world.
It was, I mean, literally right across the street, 2 houses to the right of our front porch would be the Giovanninis, and the Barretts were on the corner. That's where I almost knocked my eye out as we were playing Nerf football in December when I was maybe 13, 14 years of age. And the bushes, as you know, in December don't have leaves anymore. Nope. And my older brother said, hey, run a square out, stop at the bush, turn around, I'll hit you with the pass. He did. And I turned my head and boom, right into the bush and lodged a whole bunch of branches in my eye. But that was right next door to the Giovanninis. And then as a matter of fact, then late in the season here in Durham, 2 of your relatives had come to a game, and they actually came up here to the booth right before the broadcast and introduced themselves. So it's I mean, that's the Midwestern way. I mean, everybody knows everybody. It's a small world. You're all friends. And that was one of my greatest memories of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So give my regards to all of them as we close in on the holidays. So let's talk about your baseball career. I guess I want to start on draft day. I don't want to go all the way back in your high school career. We all know what you did, player of the year at Gatorade in Indiana, and record-setting outfielder at Roncalli High School. But I read a story earlier today about the nerves and anxiety you had on draft day. And I can't imagine what those were like, but you can speak to that. But your high school coach, Aaron Krall, called you and basically invited you, say, like, how you doing? And invited you back to the park, the state of your high school field, to just sit down and hang out and decompress before your life was invariably going to change a few hours from then. Can you take me back to that day and what the purpose was, what memories you had, what reflections you had of your life up to that stage?
Yeah, so it kind of started the day before. I'll make it quick, but we played in the regional championship against our rival high school, and I had a lot of people coming in to watch me, and I really wasn't nervous about the draft at all going into it. I'd had a good year, and Catholic upbringing. I rely on my faith a lot, so I kind of just surrendered the plan to God, and I was going to enjoy playing that Saturday with my friends, hopefully win, and then have a chance to go play in the semi-state and state game. And then I remember we were playing the game. And like I said, rival high school, and we were down. Well, we ended up losing 6-2, but basically, long story short, a lot of people there to watch me the day before the draft. I get intentionally walked. I had 5 at-bats, got intentionally walked 4 times, 1 time with the bases loaded. So that kind of kick-started it. It was like all these people here day before the draft. I wasn't able to showcase my talent one day, leave a good lasting memory. And then the next day comes, and then obviously you wake up in the morning and you have an idea of what's going to happen. In my head, I had an idea of what's going to happen, and I knew I was going to hear my name called. But there's so many, there's 30 teams. You know nothing really about, I mean, you do your research, but truly you don't know anything about the 30 teams. I grew up in, like I said, it's a big city, but small community. Never had to leave it. Very safe here and comfortable. Like I said, I'll never leave. So you take all that into account, and then I'm about to get my name called. I understand that there's probably a big financial part that's going to come into it, where I'm going to be given a large sum of money at the age of 18 and then get sent to a state 15 hours away from where I'm from.
True.
So I think all of that I just focused on baseball that whole season for so long that I woke up that morning, and then finally it was like all of those emotions that I pushed away because I was focused on just playing, just flooded in. And I remember he invited me, but I texted our coach that morning and just was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm just out the field, like cleaning some stuff up, making sure everything's taken care of." He was like, you want to come over here and hang out for a little bit?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely. Anything to get out of the house." And just because we were having a draft party at the house, so it was also just everybody just rushing to get everything ready. And I had reporters from Indiana coming into the house that day, so there was just all these things like after 4:00 that were having to happen, and it was just like, I need to get out of here and go somewhere. And that was kind of my comfort zone. Like I always knew that I could go there and kind of just relax. And he invited me there, and I remember just sitting on the bench in the home dugout, and he didn't. I think that he just asked me maybe like if I was excited or if I was nervous, and that was kind of the only question baseball related he asked. And we just sat there and talked, and I think he understood kind of how I was feeling, and he knew just let's talk about other things. And it kind of calmed me down, and it was able to give me that like hour and a half of just relief from thinking about everything. Mm-hmm. And then I went back home, and then it was kind of everything kind of ramped up. I got ready, and then had the news interviews. People started showing up, and then I knew that I was projected to go at the back end of the first, but I did know that there were 2 or 3 teams who were interested in me a little bit higher, like middle of the first. And so obviously you want to get drafted as high as possible. So those picks are coming up, and I remember like getting super nervous. And there was one team in particular that I was in talk. I talked to my agent, and I knew that I was the second player on their board. And my agent had talked to them. They talked to my agent, and basically was like, "We're going to take Nick here if this other player isn't there." And that player was there, so I didn't get taken there. So that was kind of like a big like, oh, okay, come on, and then a letdown. And then the draft, people don't realize this, but that first round takes forever. So like you're sitting there. I think the draft started at 7 or 8, and I didn't get picked till like almost 10:30, 11, and everybody's sitting there watching it. I remember the Cubs were at that. Like Theo Epstein came to the game. Their whole front office that came to that last game, and I knew they were a team that liked me, and they drafted Nico Horner that year. And so they said like Nico, the start of Nico, and everybody, we're Cubs fans. My dog name was Wrigley growing up, so we all sat up, thought that I might go there. We knew there was no chance of me going 4th overall, but the White Sox scouting director, his name's Mike Shirley, and he lives in Indiana. And my whole life I hit with him. My brother hit with him. He does hitting lessons here in Indiana. My brother hit with him, and then I hit with him. So there was an outside chance because I've known him my whole life. And they drafted Nick Madrigal. So they said Nick 4th overall. And then we were all like, there's a video of people in the room taking a video, and they said Nick, and my dad's eyes and my eyes got like this big. And we were like, there's no way this is about to happen. But then of course the first round ended, and then there's a big like intermission between the first round and the supplemental picks. And my agent called me in between, and there was a team that offered me a deal in the second round. And I knew that the Rays had the first two picks of the supplemental round, and the Royals had the third and fourth pick of that round. And I knew there was a scout in Indiana who I was close with, and I knew that if I got to 33 or 34, I was definitely going to go. Had a good feeling that the Rays would take me with one of those two picks. And so I had to make a decision on whether I wanted to take that deal in the second round and tell those first four picks basically no or go. And I basically told my agent, like, I don't know, I think back on big moments like this in my life, and you can just see how God works, because the money for the second round was better, but there was something in me that was pushing me to say just go earlier. And then the Rays draft me 32nd overall, and all the things that came after that were just a blessing in disguise. My uncle and my aunt had a condo in Northport, Florida, that they'd been renting for forever, which is, for people who don't know, 15 minutes from Port Charlotte, where we have spring training. So I was able to have a place to stay there. And just, there's so many things that happened that it just was such a blessing that the Rays had drafted me there. And I had made the decision to turn down that second round deal. And I can only, I've mentioned, my faith is huge, and I can look back and just see how God worked in those moments, and how he blessed me, and how he made it very clear that was the correct decision to tell him to have whoever was going to take me in the earliest pick to take me, which is pretty special to think back on.
Great story. Thank you for that. You kind of buried the lead though. So when you heard your name officially, not Madrigal, not Horner, when you heard Schnell, do you even remember that moment, or did you need to go back and watch the video to see what it was like?
I definitely remember the moment. Like I said, it was ultimately a lot of like surprise almost, and not like a bad surprise, but I really thought I was going the next pick to the Royals. And so when I heard it 32nd overall, it was like initial, like a shock, and then like just a huge amount of excitement. Obviously, I had my mom and dad sitting next to me, my brother, who like I said, we played sports growing up, all kinds of sports, and he chose baseball as his love. And I'm pretty certain that whatever he would have chose as his favorite sport was what I was going to choose. We were both good athletes and could have probably played any of the three big sports, baseball, football, or basketball, and he chose baseball. And so I followed in his footsteps, and I attribute a lot of my success to him, and watching him play, and finding love in baseball. And I definitely remember, I love my mom and dad, obviously, and I loved sharing that moment with them, but I can remember seeing tears on my brother's eyes. And that moment is one of the moments I remember sticking out to me, and kind of just a surreal moment where you get to, a very rare moment where you get to hear your name called, and know that you're going to get the opportunity to do something you love. That was his dream too, that he didn't get to kind of do with his career what he wanted to. And so I got to kind of carry that on. And so that's definitely what I remember from the night the most.
Yeah, I don't know how well you got to know Logan Driscoll in your couple of months here, but he played with his brother in college together. They're both catchers until his older brother got converted to the mound. And when Logan had a chance to get to the big leagues, Logan took BP in the indoor cages here just a couple of days ago. He lives in Durham, as you probably know. Getting to the big leagues and fulfilling not just Logan's dream, but really kind of doing it for his family and doing it for his brother, because were it not for injuries, he feels like his brother really could have had a chance to turn pro, and who knows where the career goes from that stage. So as you were conveying that story, that was what was kind of flowing through my head.
Yeah, definitely. He kind of same thing. He committed to play at Belmont, and he had some injuries too. He had hurt his back his freshman year, so they medically redshirted him, and then came back his sophomore year, and that injury kind of lingered. And it's a bulging disc, which in your back, and bulging discs are kind of something that you can get surgery and it can cause more complications down the road, or you kind of have to shut down what you're doing because it can flare up at any time. And being a rotational athlete with a back that you never know how it's going to handle certain things is tough. So he kind of was faced with the decision, quit playing or get the surgery. And he's extremely smart. So he ended up transferring to IU and going to their business school, which is a really good business school. And so he made that decision. So I know that he didn't get the opportunities because of his injuries too. So very similar to how you said Logan was. And
yeah, kind of live vicariously through your successes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So just a couple of questions, because the longer you're in the game, the less it matters what round you were taken. As a matter of fact, really after the draft is over, you're all players. It's all kind of merit based on where promotions occur and who gets the opportunities. But that said, you're 18 years old, you're first round pick. You now have money, you have a lot of attention, and everybody now knows who Nick Schnell is, instead of just coming from a suburb of Indianapolis where, frankly, high school baseball is not a big thing in the Midwest. There's not a lot of visibility there for it. But then COVID hits, you lose a year. Then you're injured and you lose a couple months at the end of 21, and a lot of 22, you're hurt. So now you're 22, 23 years of age and still kind of waiting to get through that first full season. What are the burden of being then at least still a first round pick, but not a lot of time on the field? You're worried about your developmental time and what the clock is on when everybody thinks you might get to the big leagues. How do you deal with all of those?
Yeah, it was definitely a struggle. And growing up, like I said, I went to a Catholic school, so my faith was big. But every class I went to growing up, pray before the start of the class. Every Sunday, my mom and dad are taking us to church. Then you get drafted and you're out on your own, and it's not in front of you as much. You're not going to each class and praying 9 times a day. So I didn't lose my faith. I still believed in God, but I wasn't actively seeking that relationship with God in the moment. And that caused a lot of stress and anxiety because, just like you said, I put a lot of pressure on myself being a first round pick and it's not only that I put pressure on myself, but there's also other guys who got drafted in front of me or behind me, and they're moving through their organizations. And these are guys I played in summer showcases growing up. And I have decent relationships with these guys, Jared Kellenick, Alec Thomas, Parker Meadows, guys who have made their debuts and are having Bo Naylor, these are guys impacting their teams in the big leagues who I'm playing with. And I'm watching these guys fly through their system. And I'm sitting here I was picked right by where these guys were picked. If I was healthy, this and that, and playing the what if game. And when that happens and you can't play or prove anything and you're sitting there with an injury, it causes for a lot of mental stress and a little bit of anxiety. But I think in 2022, after my second shoulder surgery, I went to Charleston for 30 games that year, and my shoulder wasn't better still. And it was almost one of those moments where you're down so bad that it's you have no other option but to turn to what you know. And for me, it was I almost had to get buried so deep with just frustration and stress of wanting to play and do better. And truthfully, after the second surgery, not knowing if it was worth playing anymore, because we're overhead athletes, 2 shoulder surgeries. If you look at the statistics, good thing I'm a position player, because if I was a pitcher, my career would be over. But is it worth playing? And so I think I found myself just being so frustrated and stressed for so long that it was okay, I need something different. And that's when I started leaning back on my faith a lot. And I realized that there was a lot of things bigger than me. And it's not about whether I make it to the big leagues. It's not about, at this point, Bo was
Yeah.
a baby. I was married. There's so many other things in perspective that are bigger and more important than me being a baseball player. And I think when I started focusing on that, then I came into 2023, and that was when I was able to play the full season. And I didn't have necessarily the year I wanted, but it was another, because of finding my faith again. I found that love for baseball being back on the field, and like there's no greater feeling than like, and I think it made it better because I'd struggled for so long, and then I found that faith again, and then I got to play again, and it was just a bunch of gratitude for what I went through. I can't imagine not going through those surgeries now and not going through those trials. And my grandpa, both grandpas and my grandparents, my dad and my mom, we always talk about it, and it's gonna like make the big league debut even sweeter now because of everything went through. And but like Bo's old enough to understand and watch now, and I just think to myself, maybe God was slowing me down so that I could kind of show Bo the way a little bit as he gets older, and that was the long-winded version of all that. But there was a lot that went into that. It was obviously a long road, but obviously grateful to be where I'm at now.
Yeah, no, it'd be great sharing, and maybe God's plan is also to make sure that your daughter is born and healthy, and she can be in the stands when you make your major league debut. If that happens next summer, that would be a great punctuation to the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take me to the late July night then, after all of these injuries this past year, where Kevin Bowles pulls you in the office and says you're going to Durham. You're going to AAA for the first time.
Yeah, so like I said, so sorry, I keep backdating this, but there's a lot to go into these stories, kind of. So in 2023, like I said, I didn't have the year I wanted to, but I gained a lot of confidence because I played a full season. So I was like, okay, your body can withstand a full season. I did some good things, and I had to just keep reminding myself, look, like you were drafted when you were 18, you haven't played a full season. You're literally developmentally maybe 21. You're 23, but you're 21 in development years. So you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. This is the first year you got. And if you look at the trend throughout the year, I was trending in the correct direction. So it wasn't like I started well and then started declining. It was, I struggled and then I got better and better and better. And so you have to look at it as a full body of work and take the perspective of okay, there were some good things, and you can't kick yourself for not playing for 3 years. And so that led into the off season, and with the new CBA, roster shrunk, and I was going into my last year. This year was technically my last year on my rookie contract. So I knew that going into spring training, it was going to be a big spring training because there's a lot of good players in our organization. Even though, like you said, I was a first round draft pick, there's been 6 years of drafts after me. So there's other guys that have been drafted. You got other prospects. So you're just another one of the guys. And so I had to make that off season. I went in and I was like, all right, I'm going to make the changes I need to make and get to where I need to be going into spring training. And I had talked to the Rays. They called me a week and a half before spring training and said, hey, look, outfield's tight. You know that you need to come in and prove to us that you deserve a job. We're a little low on first basemen. You've mentioned it in the past. Do you have any interest in playing first base? And like any competitor, I was like, well, if you're telling me that there's a little bit of room at first base and there's not room in the outfield, put me wherever you want to put me. As long as I'm hitting 1 through 9 somewhere in there, I'll play wherever you want. I'll catch if you want me to.
You might have thrown the different arm.
Yeah, exactly. So I told him, yes, and this is a week and a half before spring training. I've never played first base in my life. So I'm texting one of our high school coaches, my high school coach, head coach, wasn't at our high school anymore, but one of the assistants is still there. So I texted him, had a good relationship. I was like, hey, I'm going to, there's this little shop, sports shop that sells like used stuff cheap. I said, I'm going to play it again, to buy a glove.
Played against sports.
Yep. And I'm gonna get a glove. I'm gonna meet you at the field and we're taking ground balls. He was like, we're taking ground balls. I was like, it's like, yeah, I'm playing first base. So, and it wasn't a for sure thing. They were just like, be ready for the opportunity. Like, we'll work on it in spring training and see where you're at. So I just every day started doing hand stuff, drills, and working on different things with him. And he gave me some ideas that I could do on my own. And I got to spring training, and I went early because I knew that it was a big spring training, and I wanted to show the Rays that the work I'd put in. And when you show up at the same time as everybody, I think you can get lost in the shuffle. So I wanted to get there early where they were able to see me in a smaller setting, a smaller group. And I had a really good first couple of days there of live at bats and showed well, and then had probably the best spring training of my life. And we did some first base stuff, and they were super impressed with that. And so I kind of forced their hand into giving me an opportunity in Montgomery. And I kind of knew I was probably the fourth outfielder starting to go in there, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. And then leading up to when Bolsey called me, all of that leading into that call was kind of, I had no expectation because of where I came in during spring training of ever getting the call. I thought literally every outfielder that was at Montgomery would get that call before me. I knew I'd had a good year, and I understood that what I had done in Montgomery might have warranted it, but because of it being my last year, stuff like that, they might want to move guys who are for sure going to continue to be with them in the future. And not that I won't, there's still a chance of that, but that those guys would get that call. And so when I was actually in the hotel because it happened that morning. They needed to get me out. So he called me. I was roommates with Sean Hunley, who's been up and down with Durham, and the phone started ringing. Rarely does your manager call you throughout the year. So I knew exactly what it was, and my heart dropped, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I answered it, and he told me, and you can ask Sean about it, but I immediately, adrenaline was pumping through my veins. He was like, you have a flight at 5. He called me at like noon. So he was like, get your stuff ready, get to the field and get your stuff, just get an Uber and then get to the airport. And so I'm trying to call Carly, let her know that because I'm so excited, call my mom and dad, let them know I'm trying to pack up all my stuff. I'm going a million miles per hour. And Hunley was like, dude, you need to slow down, take a deep breath, slow down. And so he was able to calm me down a little bit, but that was only my second call up ever. In 2019, I went from Princeton to Bowling Green, but that was the only time I've been called up as far as like middle of the season. And again, one of those moments where it's like all the hard work and all the faith put into God's hands and just playing free. I never thought that was an opportunity. So you want to give all the glory to God, but also recognize, like, a lot of people, when they were congratulating me, I was giving all glory to God, and they were like, yeah, but you put in the work. God gave you the tools to do it. You put in the work, like, enjoy it and celebrate it. And I'm extremely blessed to have the people, because I think I'm somebody who will just like step back and be like, no, it's all these other things, like, and they're like, no, you deserved it, and you should be able to celebrate this. So
great story. Just a couple more quick things, because I'm way over time with you, but this has just been
good.
Such a pleasure to kind of get to know you a little bit better here during this off season. Did you see Bull Durham as a kid?
Yes, I've seen it, but
my caveat. I mean, it's okay to say no, because Andrew Jones, the Major League All-Star, former Bull, he told me in the podcast this summer he had never seen Bull Durham ever. He played for he's one of the biggest like faces of the Durham Bulls. He'd never seen. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen it, but it's been a really long time. People, Bob Seymour and Cole Wilcox always give me crap because I'm not a movie person, really.
Right.
I've seen a lot of TV shows, but
Mm.
I have seen most of the baseball movies. I'm not a movie rewatcher, so I've seen it, and my dad loves the movie, and a lot of people in my family love baseball movies. But when you play baseball, there's just something about continuing to watch baseball outside of baseball that is just it's tough sometimes because of how much time you spend in it. Like this year for the playoffs, I haven't even watched much playoffs, but I'll probably, if we get a Subway Series, I'll definitely probably watch
I
the
mean,
playoffs. But
are you a gamer? Do you watch Netflix? I mean, what do you do like outside of being a dad and a
I was
husband
gonna say I'm a dad.
and a hunter? Like, what else do you do?
Like you said, I'm a father, so I try and spend
Okay.
as much time. Like I said, that's one of the things that's most important to me is trying to spend as much time with my son and my wife as I can. They get to travel with me in season, but 6 months every other week,
Mhm.
move like it's a lot of time that you don't get with your family. But like you said, I hunt, and then we have 8 acres. So since I got home, I've done a lot of stuff on the on our property, and I try and hang out with my wife and my son and spend as much time as I can with them. And then I get out into the deer woods as much as I possibly can, and that's a recent new hobby for me. So I'm really into it right now. And the last 2 years, I put a lot of time into being a dad, and then being a dad and doing a good enough job that my wife gives me permission to go out and hunt.
And you answered this earlier as one of my questions, but because you said you had a dog growing up named Wrigley. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so where I grew up, it's kind of like the line of demarcation in Livingston County, Illinois. Where we lived, it's either Cubs, Cardinals, never with the White Sox. It was always Cubs or Cardinals. Like north of Livingston County, certainly Cubs. South toward Bloomington and Decatur and Springfield, Cardinal country. You grew up in Indy, so I mean, you could even be a Pirates fan with the Indianapolis Indians because you played at Victory Field several times. You could be a Braves fan, but are you a Cubs fan? How did that develop?
Yeah, I grew up a Cubs fan. Obviously, I'm a Rays fan now, but my dad being from he never ended up living at that house in Cornell, which is right next to Pontiac. He grew up in a small city called Bonfield, Illinois. So he was always a Cubs fan. We adopted everything every fandom my dad has really, except for NFL. My dad's a bandwagon kind of. He's a Cowboys fan, and then also cheers for the Bears because the Cowboys were good when he was a kid. But my brother and I are Colts fan. But we're huge University of Illinois fans. That's our big one. My brother and my dad. We have season tickets to football, and I really love their football team. They're having a great year right now.
Yeah.
But my sport is Illinois basketball. I live and breathe Illinois basketball, and so we kind of adopted all those University of Illinois. We're Cubs fans, and then I kind of cheer. I don't watch a ton of NBA, but if I was going to cheer for an NBA team, I'd cheer for the Bulls. My dad's a Bulls fan, so um, the deal was when we moved to Indiana, boys are going to grow up Illinois fans, and we can live in Indiana, and that was the trade-off my mom and dad made. So
Yeah, I didn't want to just drive past that because I mean you're in the shadows of Indiana University, and
yeah,
in Illinois have a really
yeah, no, not an IU
rancid
fan.
relationship, and now I'm going to have to step back because I'm a Northwestern Wildcat, so I'm not sure if I can really talk with you anymore about this,
Yeah,
but I mean I've done some national basketball games in Champaign. First, I've loved the renovated Assembly Hall. It was unbelievable
yeah,
when I was there. I did it at the Ohio State Illinois game for Westwood One or for Compass a couple of years ago. Um, but I have some memories at your football stadium. I nearly got arrested when I was in college for running in the end zone. We scored
yeah.
my second touchdown. But yeah, growing up in Indiana as an Illinois fan, are you proudly wearing the orange and blue of Illinois, or do you kind of cover it up and act like I'm not really an Illini fan? Or are you proud to irritate the Hoosiers?
No, I'm proud. We went in 2018, or it was later than that, but there was one day the Illinois basketball played IU down at their assembly hall, the bad assembly hall. and
Yeah.
and I bought my dad, my brother, and I, like, they were second row seats right behind the basket and at IU, and we all had our Illinois stuff on. And well, we went to the Illinois IU football game at IU. I think it was last year, 2 years ago, and same thing. No, a lot of my friends went to IU. My brother went to IU, and he still doesn't like it, but it's a running joke with my wife's side of the family. Her mom went to IU, so she'll teach Bo the IU fight song, and
There you go.
and so she's always just messing with me about that. But I continue to teach Bo the ILLINI chant. So we're actually going to the Northwestern Illinois game at Wrigley Field in a couple of weeks. I don't know if you
we'll put
are
a little
going to
side
that,
wager on that one.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. So two last quick questions. Number one, first off, remind me if you're back with the Rays and back with Durham next year. I'm going to put a lot of crimson in your locker. So if you happen to find some crimson there or some purple and white, you'll know who it's from without a name. Before I get the last couple of questions, what is your situation right now? Are you going to explore free agency? You're clearly talking with the Rays about returning? Where do things stand right now?
So how it kind of all works is 5 days after the World Series, and the Rays can reach out and give you, I think it's called like a succession contract. And so they can offer you that. And honestly, right now it's just a quiet period. Like I basically am still part of the Rays. Like, they reach out and make sure everything's all good. And I'm still technically contracted under them. So that's kind of, and it's just quiet. I've talked to my agent once or twice just about how it works. But as far as like a decision or anything, like, I'm kind of just staying put until it happens. And it's kind of the Rays' decision on whether they want to sign me. And if they offer something, then my agent and I will sit down and kind of check it over and decide if that's the best route, or if maybe seeing if free agency is the correct route. So it's kind of just it's weird as a free agent because you have a little bit of power because you can make your own decision, but also other teams have to reach out and be like, hey, we want you. You can't just be like, I want to go play for them, or I want to re-sign with them.
Right.
So it's kind of just a waiting game. I'm just taking it day by day, and whatever happens, do a lot of praying about it.
There's something to be said too about the familiarity that the Rays have with you. You spent your entire career with them. You know kind of where you stack up in terms of the outfield competition. And yeah, it might be greener with another organization, but then you're behind a number of other organizational guys that they've had for years. So that's kind of the sticky part of it, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely need to shout out the Rays because I can't imagine being in a different organization. Like, I can't speak for how great the Rays have been developmentally. And I think sometimes I've been around long enough, this is my 7th year in pro baseball. Some of the guys that haven't been along, I think guys can fall into the trap of woe is me because everybody wants to make the big leagues and they haven't and stuff. But like the Rays do things the right way, and I'm proud to, whether this is my career is over with them or if they try to re-sign me, like regardless of how it goes, I have nothing but good things to say about the Rays. They're a great organization, and they do things the right way.
Did you attend many games at Victory Field when you were a kid? And if so, did the Bulls ever play Indy when you were there watching? Do you remember?
I didn't go to very many. I remember going to one with my grandpa on my mom's side. I remember he took me to a couple. I think I played more games than I went and watched. But it's an awesome field. We used to do what's called like pitch, hit, and run competitions, and they did that at Victory Field. So I did that growing up, and it's an awesome field, but I didn't go to very many games.
Okay.
I think probably just because when their season's going, I'm playing and stuff like that. So, but beautiful field. I love playing there. It's kind of a graveyard. It's big,
I mean, I missed travel. So we went there basically every year before the pandemic hit, and then post-pandemic, we haven't been to Indy once. We haven't been to Columbus. Well, we've Columbus this year, but we've been in Toledo. I've been in Louisville. All my favorite spots back toward the Midwest.
Yeah,
off the schedule. So, last question and I'd be remiss if I didn't just ask this. from a Durham Bulls perspective, what was it like for you the 2 months, knowing what you know about the Durham Bulls and just their iconic, I mean, the brand across baseball? What was it like for you the 2 months playing for the Durham Bulls?
It was awesome. First of all, because the fans are unbelievable. Like it's a funny roller coaster with the Rays. You go to Charleston and they're great too. Like they pack out that stadium and it's a great city, but then this is no offense to these cities, but then you go to Bowling Green and Montgomery who don't really fill the stands, and then you get to Durham and it's almost like it's like playing games. I don't want to say that matter, but like you feel like the games matter because you have fans into it. And it's also funny, like you tell someone asks you what you do and you say I play with the Durham Bulls. They almost know the Bulls like it's a big league team because of the movie and everything. Everybody knows who they are. And so it's pretty cool. Like I know that a lot of people would ask me where I was and stuff, and I'd be like, I'm with the Durham Bulls right now, and they'd be like the movie? It's always like the movie?
Yeah, right.
I'm like, yeah, like the movie. Say basically the same exact thing, except we're not actors. We're actually playing the game. But it was awesome. Like the stadium is awesome. It's I like hitting there mostly, but the fans are great, and the atmosphere is awesome. And there's an energy about baseball when you get there again that is different than kind of those other 3 levels you play out before you get there. And that brings some excitement to the game as a player. And it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. The game's a lot more fun when you have fans that are into it and you have fans that are invested and there to watch you play, and it doesn't feel like people are paying them to be in the stands when you go to play in a game. So,
well, that's great, Nick. I can't thank you for your time. Pulling yourself out of your stand to do a little hunting outside. Been a great opportunity to kind of allow our fans a chance to get to know you. Best of luck in the off season, wherever you sign. If it's with the Rays, I hope to see you back in Durham. And you'll be a proud father of 2. So good luck to you, and our best to Carly and Bo, and becoming an older brother, and nothing but the best over the holiday season.
I appreciate you having me on, and thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. That is Nick Schnell, Durham Bulls outfielder. And that's going to wrap up this episode of the Durham Bulls Podcast. Again, you can find the video version on our YouTube channel, Durham Bulls TV, and the audio version always archived. Every episode drops generally every Monday. Apple, Spotify, tune in. You can find us there. So for Jatovi McDuffie, who's our post-production wizard for these podcasts, and our special guest, Nick Schnell, I'm Patrick Kinas. See you next week on the Durham Bulls Podcast.